Episode 8, an interview with Trace Mayer about the 7 network effects.
Interested in Bitcoin?
Bitcoin is a very vague concept to a lot of people.
Need to know more about cryptocurrency?
We're going to talk about the basics. This is something that people just have no idea about what crypto is.
How about buying, selling, and mining?
Tony, I think that's one of the things that's going to make us a little different from some other shows.
We're getting our hands dirty.
Then listen to Gary Leland and Tony Sakala, better known as the Crypto Cousins, on the Crypto Cousins podcast.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome to the show. Gary Leland here.
And this is Tony Sakala.
Tony, this is a crazy week. Bitcoin. Price today on Coinbase, $17,051. Up $5,483 since last week. Tony, this is up 47.4%. I'm trying to think of the last time I got that kind of return off of any of my 401ks or investments. When was the last time you got that kind of return, Tony?
Never, ever.
Never, ever.
Never, ever. Well, the other news is Litecoin this morning.
Litecoin. Starting yesterday.
Just starting yesterday. It took off. I was asleep at the wheel, busy working, wasn't paying attention. Of course, you bought a bunch of Litecoin last week and yesterday, didn't you?
I bought a bunch last week at $94. I bought more. I doubled down yesterday and bought the same amount again at $183. This morning, it's $310, up $213 or 220%. So I'm a happy camper on both Bitcoin and Litecoin prices.
Well, Litecoin's really amazing. And on GDAX, I'm getting reports that it's more. That it's $360.
Well, it hit 400 this morning. Now, when I did this,
wow.
it probably had dropped, because I go in a few minutes before the show, everyone, and I get the prices and put it in our notes here. So that was 10 minutes ago, so it could be up. And in all trying to be open about it, last week I said I was going to buy Monero and just try to be open about everything I talk about here. And when I said that, it was 230. And when I went to go buy it later that day or the next morning, it was 260. And I was like, man, I was kind of upset. So I didn't buy as much as I was planning on buying. But now it's 286. So it is up $51 since I said I was going to buy it, but not quite as much since I finally bought it. So I picked that one pretty correct, too, I felt like.
I think that it's kind of like, what did they say? Shooting fish in a barrel. This is a horrible horrible visual, but I mean, you can't go wrong. I mean, everything you touch on crypto is moving in that direction. But we do have this problem that now that we're mainstream and people are taking notice, we're on the mainstream media, which is, a lot of people call it, what is it, lamestream media or fake stream media. I don't really know what is a good label, but they seem to get pretty much everything wrong.
Yes, if they say it's not going to happen, maybe that means if they say sell, maybe you should buy.
You should double down and start buying.
Yeah, we're not financial advisors by any means. We're just giving our thoughts and telling what we're doing. But it seems to me all I hear from them are doom and gloom. And actually, one guy I heard yesterday talking goes, this morning, I take it back, this morning I saw a show and there were 5 people on the panel and 4 of them said, or the head person said, we probably should all be selling this after what we just heard. And all of them were like, yeah. And this one guy was like going, I don't know about all that. I told everybody to hold off when it was like 500. And now they all hate me. I'm not telling anyone to sell this.
Yeah, really. Well, and then you said that who was on one of those big
Roger
financial
Ver
shows?
Was on Fast Money yesterday.
They're
having
what did
Bitcoin Week. Is what they're calling it. Every show just about they talk about Bitcoin. So I get on my TV and I do it at 4 times speed until I see the word Bitcoin at the bottom of the screen. Then I stop and I watch like 4 minutes of the 30-minute show, and then I turn it on. But this is Bitcoin Week. And their first one was Roger Ver, a Bcash. And that's what I'm calling it, is Bcash.
Bcash.
That's
So was he?
That's
what was he talking about? Let me guess.
He said Bitcoin was dead the whole time. Bitcoin's dead. You need to get your money out of Bitcoin. You need to buy Bcash. Bcash is Bitcoin, and everybody's going to lose their money unless they buy Bcash. And
Well, I mean, people probably figured it out because they said, Roger, he's the founder of Bcash, right? They said that.
No. They never told anyone that Roger had any connection with Bcash. Matter of fact, I don't know if they knew that. When they got through, when Roger left, all of them said, wow, maybe we should get out of Bitcoin and get into Bcash. And the one guy goes, I have both. I'm ahead of you. Like he was the genius, of the bunch. But no, they never mentioned that Roger could have some kind of profit to make by people buying Bcash.
Wow.
So I thought that was interesting. Hey, Tony, also, everybody needs to know about the Bitcoin Ethereum blockchain super conference coming up in Dallas, Texas. Tony and I have press passes to that. So we're going to be there. So if you use our link to go to it, cryptocousins.com/super, and that's an affiliate link. If you decide to buy, we make a little cut. But Tony, the people at this conference are off the hook. I mean,
off the hook, off the chain, off the blockchain. They're on the blockchain and off the blockchain. It's amazing.
I don't know this Tim Draper guy though. He's one of the top ones, and I'm not familiar with him.
Yeah, he's a big guy in the investment field in Silicon Valley. Knows him well. But we're excited that John McAfee's going to be there.
And John McAfee, for those who are wondering where our interview is, he emailed me again Saturday. Was it Saturday I called you? He emailed me and goes, okay, let's do it. Saturday. Here's my phone number. And I'm calling Tony. Tony, he wants to do it now. Can you do it? And he goes, I'll be home in 10 minutes. And so I email him back and call him back and nothing. So we're still working on that. But now we've also gotten a commitment from Charlie Shrim of Jax and Decentral. So hopefully we're going to have Charlie Shrim on the show, and hopefully he's more responsive. It's not like either one are saying no. They're saying, yeah. So we'll find out with Charlie. Charlie just said, I emailed him and said, yeah, sure, I'll be happy to come on the show. So I think that's going to happen. But, that's going
to be a very interesting show. On Facebook, our friends on Facebook are very excited.
Yes, they are. And this conference, I think, is the best conference I've seen since we've been doing it. It's the biggest one I've seen since we've been doing it. I know there's probably other bigger ones. This is the real thing. But everybody go to cryptocousins.com/super. Even if you don't come, look at these guys' bios and get familiar with these people because you're going to see these people a lot. And we'll be there.
And what's the date on that? What's the date, Gary?
It's February. Thanks for asking me because I have no idea off the top of my head. February the 28th, maybe? That's what I'm guessing it is.
My calendar says there are 2 weekends in February that I've set aside. It's February 16th?
16th through the 18th.
17th, 18th.
February 16th through the 18th. So,
cool.
So check that out. And like I said, if you're there, and if you do go, and you see us, Tony and I are going to be filming a lot and interviewing people and stuff, but make sure and come up and say hi and introduce yourself so you know who you are. And also I want to tell everybody about on our Facebook group, which you can find at cryptocousins.com/Facebook group, or you can just go to Facebook and search Crypto Cousins. But I'm talking on the group, not our page. Cousin Ken, one of the moderators there, wrote a really pretty good write-up on using Awesome Miner, I guess because of the nice hash incident that happened.
Incident is a really nice word, Gary.
I'm a pretty nice person.
Yeah.
But anyway, he says, for those of you using nice hash and like being paid in Bitcoin, he's finding that Awesome Miner and the mining pool together is the next best option for him. So you might want to go check that out. It's a great article. And he didn't write an article like on a blog and just go, hey, go to my blog. He wrote an article on our group. So that's the kind of mods we want right there. Not only are they involved and they're getting people to come, but he's actually adding content to the group page.
Cool. Kudos to Cousin Ken.
And also, while we're talking about the Facebook moderators, Tony, you realize now we have moderators from Australia, Canada, United States, India, and Macedonia. But I want to know, where's like South America and Africa? What's going on there with you guys? I know we got people listening to the show down there.
Well, we might have one from Peru. I got a phone call from Peru this morning, but we were starting the show, so I didn't pick up. So we'll see.
And people ask me all the time, this is the question I get all the time, though, Tony. What do moderators do? What do you want moderators to do? So I thought maybe if we just tell people, they will quit emailing asking, and they'll just say, hey, I want to be a moderator because I know what they do.
Well, it's a great opportunity to get involved. You're on the front lines. You get to approve new members. That's number one. Gary,
also help keep out our spam. We have a zero spam tolerance. If you spam the site, you're out. If you spam, I got to remove somebody. I removed somebody yesterday for spamming the group. I got to remove someone this morning.
Oh, you did a good job. I didn't even see it.
Yeah, and I got to remove someone this morning because they spammed comments. See, they get sneaky. They go in and spam comments thinking you won't see it. So I was on my phone and I was busy, so I just took a screenshot of it so I'd remember to go back and remove them from that. But we remove immediately because this is a no spam group, no tolerance for spam. So you help clean that out. Also, we want you spreading the word about the group because we want this to be a people's group, all of our cousins, which everybody in crypto is a cousin. We want this to be a worldwide group. So add friends, tell your friends, help grow the group, and do like Ken did, Cousin Ken did. Add content.
Yeah.
That's good content. I mean, I see some groups, and some groups just like share the same content. I bet if you go to 100 groups, 70 of them have the same stuff over and over and over and over. I saw
sharing
this
the
on this
latest
group.
headline.
Let me put it on my group.
Right.
Our groups are all original content for the most part. Which I think
and we
is
get
pretty good.
scoops because we have members on the other side of the world. It's already tomorrow there.
Yeah, we got some scoop from Australia before we knew it here, one show. I remember that. Hey, I want you to listen to something, Tony, and tell me what you think of this. You ready?
Okay.
Alexa, play podcast Crypto Cousins.
Getting the latest episode of Crypto Cousins. Here it is from TuneIn.
Just talking crypto, Bitcoin Diamond, Monero, and a lot of other crypto stuff. Alexa, stop. So what'd you think of that?
Whoa.
That's my Alexa.
Cool.
If you go to your Alexa now and say, Alexa, play podcast Crypto Cousins, it plays the latest episode. Is that cool?
That is so cool. So nobody has to do anything programming-wise. It just happens. If you say it, it happens.
Just walk up to it and go. So if you're over at your friend's house and you want to say, hey, are you into crypto? And they say, kind of familiar with it, but not that much. You can go, well, let me turn you on to this show. Alexa, play podcast Crypto Cousins. You got to say that in order, podcast Crypto Cousins. I think podcast tells it maybe what category it's in, that it's not music and it's not an audiobook. And then you name the podcast Crypto Cousins. So you can introduce someone to the Crypto Cousins without pulling out your iPhone if they have an Alexa.
That's very cool. Well, now we're going to go seriously viral.
Seriously. Well, and I also made did something else to help us out too. I made some text short links. Now, if you, the numbers for all these, you text to the number 33444. That's 2 3s and 3 4s. 33444. But if you text the word Apple to 33444, it brings up on your phone the shortcut to go straight to the iTunes page and subscribe to us there. If you text the word Android, it takes you to Google Play. If you text Spotify, it takes you to Spotify. If you text iHeartRadio, it takes you to our iHeartRadio page. And
let me guess. What if you text Coinbase?
It will take you to our Coinbase page. So it's pretty cool. So you pick up a phone and just text the word to 33444. I think it's really cool myself. I was pretty proud of myself.
I think it's very cool. I think at this point now, so if you can tell someone, how do you get into crypto? Just say, hey, text to 33444 the word Coinbase, and they're ready to go.
Or if you want to help them find our podcast, you look at their phone and say, what kind of phone you got, or do you listen to Spotify or whatever? And you say, well, just text Spotify to 33444. But yeah, if you want to get into crypto and you're on your phone or iPad or pad, text Coinbase to 33444. And When you do that, it's just like sending them to our short link, which is cryptocousins.com/Coinbase. And Tony, I've come up with the conclusion that is the best way, one of the best ways people can help us. Because if you use our short link or our text link, and like I said, the short link is cryptocousins.com/Coinbase. If your friends sign up that way, we make $10 and they get $10 worth of Bitcoin. But Tony, the thing is, which we're getting tons of people donating. I'm not going to say we're not. We're getting lots more people donating than I expected. But the people who donated like on our first shows, that Bitcoin's worth $30 now instead of $10.
That's right. It doesn't sound like, you sign up through our link and you'll make $10 with Bitcoin. That's right, because it's $10 in Bitcoin.
Right, so it's going up. And we're not selling our Bitcoin.
No.
So that is one of the number one ways people can help us grow the show, because we want to add a second show, but it costs to have people produce the show and stuff. So if you want to help us grow and you want a second and possibly a third show every week, tell people to either use our text link, text Coinbase to 33444, or use our regular short link, cryptocousins.com/Coinbase. Maybe share that on your Facebook page or your Twitter page or whatever and help us grow. And also, go ahead, Tony.
I mean, Gary, when people start a bank account, no one says, "Oh yeah, put in $100, we'll match you with another 10 or something." No one says that. You're getting 10% more crypto on your first purchase at Coinbase, and that's pretty substantial. I bet most people are starting out with a couple $100 there, so it's at least 10%. It's at minimum 10%.
And you're not having to pay for it. Usually when you open a bank account, you got to pay for checks, so they get back 40 of it right off the bat.
Right. Exactly.
So that's cool. So like I said, I just realized the other day when I was looking at the numbers how good of a revenue that was for us. Uncovering the show here. And then also, on our short links, if this cryptocousins.com/iTunes, cryptocousins.com/play for Android, cryptocousins.com/Spotify for Spotify. Basically, if you hadn't figured it out yet, guys, if you put cryptocousins.com/almost anything, it'll take you to our page, even our YouTube page, cryptocousins.com/YouTube. Tony, we got like almost 40 videos already on the YouTube page.
Our library's growing, and we haven't even focused on that.
Yeah, that's just something we've done on the side.
Mm-hmm.
And we have all the way from what is Bitcoin to what is mining to what is, we even put a video on there the other day of us setting up the full node.
Gary, I know we wanted to make this show quick, but this doesn't seem to be happening.
Well, we're almost there.
We can't stop talking. And I really want to talk about the news, and I know we're not going to talk about the news
today. We're going to skip the news today because we're trying to make this short. But I did want to say one more thing about moderators before we go.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see, I'm not a big Reddit guy or Telegram guy, but these things are really taking off. So if someone who listens is really big on Reddit or Telegram, we could use someone to be a moderator there and help us get that going.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe be more of an admin there and do that for us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, or if you want to do it on your own and make it the Crypto Cousins, that's fine. But we need to move into Reddit. We need to move into Telegram. We need someone to do our Facebook page, not our group, but our page. And actually, I think take the content we put on our group and re-put it on our page. So we need some help, Tony, on this stuff.
Yes, we do. Because we are going almost 24/7.
Yeah, we just don't have it.
On this stuff.
We're going to have to start taking off work if we go anymore. And believe me, even though we're making some money off of Coinbase, we aren't making that much money that we can take off work. And I am going to answer one question this week.
Okay.
Or go with one question, a quick email question. Elva asks, says, I have a few questions you might know the answer to. Capital gains taxes. Assume this would be necessary if there's a capital gain? Question mark. Tony, you know my answer is to that?
I know what your answer is going to be to that.
I am not an accountant. I would see your accountant, nor am I a financial advisor. Tony, are you?
Not at all.
Okay.
I don't even pretend to be one on radio.
I don't pretend to be one anywhere. So, and I'm not one, so I don't know. So anyone, if you want to know about finances, you want to know about taxes, ask someone who does that for a living, who would probably know something. because we definitely don't know about that. So that's it for me. You got anything else? One more thing. Mm-hmm. And then we'll go to the interview. And I'm sorry, guys, we had this housekeeping to do. I know a lot of y'all want to hear the interview. We had this housekeeping to do. And really, though, Tony, this is online. If they don't want to hear this, they can forward fast it. I hate to let scoop out the bag. I mean,
I know. I will confess, I listen to all podcasts at 1.5 or 2 times speed.
Yeah,
even us.
And I listen at regular because I drift sometimes, and if I did it at 2 times speed, I would miss too much. But I want to do or maybe it'd be the first of the year, but I want to do an episode nothing but question and answer.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I want to do is a question and answer. So I want to make sure everybody has our phone number, 747-777-9471. 747-777-9471. Tony, you got that number, great number with all those sevens. I agree with you. You're luckier just for dialing it. But send us questions, email us questions, put them on the Facebook page. But that's the plan right now. It's for the first show of the year to be a question and answer show. So unless you have anything, Tony, I say we should move on with the interview. What do you think?
Well, I love talking to Trace Meyer.
Cousin Trace.
Cousin Trace, he's been around since the beginning, and he has such a deep perspective on the topic. And I'm going to cheat. I'm going to give one news item, just a topic that came across the other day. There was some bit shaming of Andreas Antonopoulos, who's really an amazing human being who talks about Bitcoin and how it's going to help the world. And after the bit shaming, I'm not going to mention who did it, but it's pretty obvious to people in the space who are people who might have done it. He received $1.5 million in Bitcoin donations.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, you know what that means.
Well, that means
that next week it's going to be a lot more.
Wow, I wish that would happen to us one day. Then we could actually build a studio. We keep doing good works. It might happen. I mean, he has worked for years, and he deserved every Satoshi. It was That's
amazing.
Amazing that the community supported him like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they rallied behind.
Okay, who badmouthed them? Where do I go find that? Because obviously you don't want to say it.
He was on CNBC. I think we know who he is.
Oh, okay. I don't, but
yeah. Well, you talked about it's Roger. Of course, it was Roger.
Oh, okay. Wow, what would he be bad-mouthing him for?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how Roger works.
I guess because he's promoting something different.
He
has a different agenda, I guess.
I guess.
Okay.
It's exciting though. $1.5 million in donations. One person alone gave 34 Bitcoin.
Wow. Well, that was someone who probably had bought a lot of Bitcoin early because of what he told him.
Yeah, I would think so.
And he's going, hey, wasn't for you, I wouldn't be sitting where I'm at right now on my yacht in the Bahamas. So here's here's a tip that I owe you. Well, let's get to Trace. In case you don't know, Trace is an entrepreneur, investor, journalist, a monetary scientist, and a defender of freedom of speech, and holds degrees in accounting and law. He was among the first popular bloggers to recommend Bitcoin as a virtual currency. He's funded Bitcoin infrastructure, including Armory and BitPay, also and Kraken. And also Trace hosts the Bitcoin Knowledge Podcast, which is where I found out about him. So unless you have anything to add, Tony, let's get to the interview.
Let's go.
Well, guess what, Tony? Cousin Trace is back. Hey, Trace, thanks for joining us again.
Great to be here. Yeah, good to see you guys again.
Yeah, we enjoyed that last episode so much. We had you back. You said you'd come back, and we're having you back. And today, I want to start out this interview with this. I've heard you make this talk before, and I just find it a great talk, the 7 network effects of Bitcoin.
Oh, yeah. It's this kind of came out of this discussion of this whole block size debate, which has been very contentious. And, I went back to first principles, like, why do people hire Bitcoin? Like, what job do you want Bitcoin to do for you? And then I figured out, like, oh my gosh, there are a ton of different reasons people hire Bitcoin. And then I started grouping them into basically these 7 different big categories or big network effects. And so that's kind of how this all came about. And I think it helps people get a framework or an organization for how to approach Bitcoin and figure out like what it's for, what it's doing, where it's going, all of these kind of questions that people have about it.
So can we just go through the 7?
Oh, yeah, of course. I'll get right to it. So the first network effect is speculation. That's based on subjective value theory from the Austrian School of Economics. Everybody values stuff because they individually make choices, as opposed to other valuation methodologies like labor theory of value from the Keynesian school, etc. And so we've got speculation. People subjectively value Bitcoin. Maybe they like to wear it like art. That's a joke because it's not corporeal. But
but on that, Trace, I'm wearing Bitcoin socks right now.
There we go. Keeping the private keys in your socks, huh? So, yeah, they're probably made out of llama alpaca, right? Because that's our mascot. So, that and the honey badger. So we've got speculation. In order to speculate, you've got to have a wallet to secure your private keys and do the network validation. You need to have an exchange where you trade your Bitcoins for dollars or euros. Then, because people are holding it or speculating on it, then merchants will accept it. And so, that's where we get payment processors, we get darknet markets, etc. Some of these actors are legitimate, some of them are not legitimate, like the Silk Road, and that guy's serving life in prison without parole and no ability to appeal. So he's kind of up a creek without a paddle.
I didn't know he didn't have an ability to appeal.
Well, he lost his appeal, so he's done. Oh. His goose is cooked. Yeah, I actually went to 2 out of the 3 weeks of his trial. It was fascinating to watch it all happen. But yeah, definitely don't do illegal stuff with Bitcoin. It's a bad idea. So we've got speculation, we've got merchants. Now, because merchants accept Bitcoin, consumers will use Bitcoin to pay those merchants. And an example of this would be Purse.io. You can buy stuff on Amazon, and Purse acts kind of like this exchange between Bitcoin and Amazon gift card credit and helps people make that market a little bit more liquid. And the average discount is something like 17% or something pretty high. So instead of using a credit card, you use Bitcoin. You save a lot of money on Amazon. But, we've also got nefarious actors. And an example of this would be the ransomware or the malware. And there was an article about this with hospitals, and I had actually gone about 6 months before it happened to these hospitals. I went and gave a presentation to chief information security officers in conjunction with the FBI, and I told them, hey, look, this is only going to become more problematic because of all these network effects, and the people that are running this ransomware that encrypts the hospital database. People die if you don't pay to get this database unencrypted. And so these hospitals become part of this third network effect. So they have to be part of the first network effect. So the hospitals have to hold Bitcoin as speculators, but then they also become consumers if they have to get their database decrypted, right? And so, this is first, second, third network effects all taking place. And now in the UK, there was a study done about 6 months ago also that a third of UK companies, all UK companies, a third of them, no matter the size, hold Bitcoin in case of ransomware. And so, this is,
wow.
I don't think it's very cool, right? But hey, people hold dollars because they have to pay taxes, and they get extorted to pay taxes because taxation is theft. And so, it's kind of the same thing. These companies have to hold Bitcoin in order to pay ransomware. So it's kind of like a tax from the hackers, you could say. And now, because of these 3 network effects, you have, and I'm not making any excuses for the hackers. I think what they're doing is despicable, but it just is what it is. And it's just, like it's the environment, it's the circumstances or environment we live in. And so these 3 network effects cause people to hold Bitcoin, which causes the value of Bitcoin to go up, which means that the mining reward, which is paid to miners, that becomes more valuable. So it incentivizes more miners, which increases the security of the system. And so the miners are the 4th network effect. And then the 5th network effect are going to be developers. these are people who are actually writing software code either for Bitcoin or also to interact with the Bitcoin network. So they might be working with let's see, they might be working for BitGo or BitPay or Coinbase, or they're going to write custom software code, but that interacts with the Bitcoin network. And so that, this is the fifth network effect. Developers they want to work on the safest, the most secure, the blockchain that has the most scalability. They want to climb Mount Everest. They don't want to climb Dogecoin. Dogecoin is kind of a joke. And so not that it's not fun, but like if you want to be a developer, you want your code to matter. And so that's why, the fifth network effect are the developers, and they're working on Bitcoin as opposed to these other blockchains.
Well, I've heard you say before that's like the Isaac Newtons of today.
Yeah,
are working on Bitcoin.
Yeah, the Isaac Newtons, Isaac Newton developed the gold standard. So, these polymaths, they're definitely working on Bitcoin, on the core protocol. People like Dr. Adam Back, Eric Lombroso, Matt Corallo, Peter Woola, Greg Maxwell, Alex Morkos, John Newberry is also at Chain Code Labs. These people are definitely all working on the core Bitcoin protocol. And then you've got other developers who might not be good enough to work on that, or they might want to work at a job that interacts with it. And so they work at companies like Kraken or Coinbase that then interacts with the core Bitcoin protocol. So that's our fifth network effect. And then our sixth network effect, and this is an incredibly exciting one, is financialization. This is where we have shunts for capital from the traditional financial and monetary system interacting with Bitcoin. So these would be, companies like LedgerX, which is approved by the CFTC to do swaps and derivatives. They're a swap execution facility, and they're live and operational now. The CME, the largest Forex market in the world, has announced that they're going to be rolling out Bitcoin futures. The CBOE has said that they want to do the same type of thing. We have lots of ETF applications that have been filed with the SEC. We've got different Bitcoin funds. There's one in Malta, there's one in Sweden. So these types of instruments begin to take root, and that's the sixth network effect. And then the seventh and final network effect is going to be world reserve currency. That's where you don't want dollars or euros, you want Bitcoins. That's your risk-free asset. That's your most the most saleable asset, the most liquid, the most safe, the most secure asset in the world. That'll be Bitcoin. And that's what everybody will want to settle into. And so when you sell a tanker full of oil, you want Bitcoin. When you sell when you do a $70 billion acquisition of a publicly traded company, you do it in Bitcoin. So that's what we're talking about there is world reserve settlement currency status.
Well, Trace, it seems like we're well on our way towards that. People respect Bitcoin so much, the price continues to rise. And isn't the history of fiat currency is that they all end up hyperinflating?
Well, there's definitely a fiat currency graveyard, and it's definitely very full. There's like over 4,000 of them in there. Average fiat currency usually lasts about 27 years, more or less. Same for like the average world reserve currency. It used to be the British pound. Now it's the US dollar. Maybe it'll be Bitcoin. We don't know. Well, actually, we do know. It'll probably be Bitcoin. The reason is because Bitcoin's the only cryptocurrency that's got, all these network effects taking root at the same time. It's the only blockchain that's got scalability, security, liquidity, all in scale. And gold is it's limited in amount, but it's not extensible, whereas fiat currency is extensible but not limited in amount. But Bitcoin is both extensible and limited in amount. So it has the benefits of gold and fiat currency, but it has none of the detriments. And so will it be able to outcompete gold and dollars? Well, look at the price chart over the last 8 years. It's tremendously outperforming both of them and outcompeting it. And so, sure, it's only a $120 billion market cap, more or less. But, that's like, where's the trajectory? Where's it going? It could be going to trillions of dollars worth of market cap.
Well,
millions of dollars per coin.
If this becomes a currency, a world currency, shouldn't governments be kind of like going, hey, we got a lot of computers. Let's get some of this stuff in case this happens to cover our rear.
Yeah, I mean, there was actually a study done by the Central Bank of Antigua. This was back in 2015, a while ago, but the study looked at holding Bitcoin as a reserve asset, just like they hold gold as a reserve asset. The Central Bank of Canada did an even more in-depth report about what a Bitcoin standard world would look like. Kind of like we have we had a gold standard under Isaac Newton, and then a gold exchange standard, and like these different iterations of it. What would a Bitcoin standard look like for the world? And it's like an 80-page report, serious report from the Bank of Canada. So, it's not like people aren't thinking about this, not just, in the industry like me, but also outside of the industry, some of these central bank economists. So, yeah, I mean, it could, like, this is a wild new technology that we're charting into uncharted territory with.
So, Trace, where do you think we are on the S curve of adoption? I mean, how early are we?
Oh, we're so early. I mean, Bitcoin's just proof of concept right now. It's only $120 billion market cap. There's $90.4 trillion of broad money. When you're looking at dollars, euros, yen worldwide, you're looking at CDs, you're looking, this is just broad money. That's not even counting bond markets. I mean, it's just tiny. Like Apple has over $200 billion of cash on their balance sheet. Like that's more than twice Bitcoin's market cap, more or less. So, I mean, Bitcoin is just a tiny, it's not even recognizable yet. It's so early. And yet where it could go is so crazy. Like it's very exciting, which is one of the reasons Satoshi said, hey, you might want to acquire some of this stuff just in case it does become something. That's the first network effect. Speculating on, hey, there might be a future utility to Bitcoin, so maybe I'll buy some today. That's the first network effect that begins to take root. That when I started publicly talking about it on my blog and stuff, it was 25 cents, between a nickel and 25 cents. So, it was that first network effect was just taking root. It was less than $1 million market cap when I was doing that. Now it's, now it's tens of thousands of percent higher. This is going to be, and already kind of is, the largest wealth transfer the world has ever seen in its history. And it probably won't happen again. I mean, we're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars up for grabs, up at stake. And a lot of it is going to be transferred to holders of Bitcoin. The gold bugs, the collapse of the fiat monetary system, the world reserve currency, the solution was gold. That's why my blog was Run to Gold, because that was the solution to this intractable problem that the world has, which led to 2007, 2008, and is going to lead to another iteration of financial crisis that's going to be bigger than those were. But the solution was gold. And then, Bitcoin came out, and Bitcoin could possibly be a solution. It could possibly fulfill its destiny of solving this problem that the world's got itself into, which if it does, wow, it could just be wild ride for everybody. And it's going to happen in phases as the software gets built out and adds more utility and value to people to solve these problems that the world has in its financial and monetary system.
I think you were the first person to state that Bitcoin could reach $1 million, that it was possible.
Yeah, well, even a little bit higher. It was a December 2013 interview. It's really good. Like search Trace Mayer Future Money Trends, you'll probably find it. But in that interview, I made the case that if just 1% of the value in offshore tax haven assets flowed into Bitcoin, it would be $2.8 million per Bitcoin. And why do people keep their money in offshore tax haven bank accounts? They like the safety, the security, the liquidity. There's, limits on fraudulent conveyance and, statutes of limitations. It's a way to ensure their monetary sovereignty. But why have to go through a third party to do that when you could do it better, cheaper, faster, safer, and hold the keys directly with Bitcoin? So, Bitcoin is in, and then President Obama just actually about 2 years ago, he was like, now people can have a Swiss bank account in their pocket. It's like, oh my gosh, you're advertising Bitcoin to the masses, and the masses are starting to use it that way too, because civil forfeiture in some states is the largest top line for their budgets. This is where they go shake down the poor black kid at the bus stop for an average amount of $420, which, goes into the general fund. And the black kid, of course, can't hire a lawyer in order to go get his money back. And so, he just loses it. Well, guess what? A lot of them are starting to use Bitcoin and cryptocurrency instead of physical cash for whatever they're doing.
But then they go after their parents, too, and take their parents' house sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes they take their parents' houses and they take their cars and all this stuff. And so, as you have collapse of the rule of law, and one of the primary values that the rule of law adds is property rights. Hernando de Soto, he wrote a great book on the relationship between property rights and poverty. And, the places that have the most poverty is where they have the least secure property rights. And so as you have an erosion in property rights, there's less wealth in the society, which means that the looters and the moochers who work for the government, they have to go steal more from people. And that's one of the great things about Bitcoin is it makes it very, very difficult, if not impossible, to be stolen from. If you have your monetary sovereignty, if you're doing your own full node and have your own private keys, your money is extremely safe. In other words, you're able to acquire protection basically for free. And the return on investment from trying to extort that money is extremely high, is extremely low. You have no return on investment from doing that. So it changes these economics of violence for how society interacts with each other, because we now have an asset which can't be seized, can't be confiscated, can't be frozen, can be transferred portably anywhere over the world via a communications channel like the internet or radio. I mean, it's a phenomenal invention for empowering the individual.
So it seems like we don't even know what we'll be using it for in the future. It's future applications are still to be invented.
Yeah, the speculation or the store of value, this is just one application. Then we have things like Lightning Network. Well, we'll be able to have trillions of transactions taking place trustlessly, atomically. So now we can start using it as currency. We can use it in day-to-day exchanges. Then we have the Internet of Things and self-driving cars and abstracting on top of the blockchain with shares or side chains or these other things. So we have tons of applications besides just store of value or currency. We have and all of these are going to be built out over the decades to come in the future. And every time we build out one more of these useful applications and people start using it, it adds more value to Bitcoin, and it re-entrenches and deepens those network effects, which makes Bitcoin that much more valuable and insurmountable to any competitors.
Well, shouldn't governments really hate the whole concept of Bitcoin?
Well, I mean, what's the purpose of a government? If the purpose of a government is to steal and keep their citizens as slaves, then yeah, they should hate it. But if the purpose of the government is to protect property rights and ensure peace and economic, progress and protect property rights and all of these things, then governments should love it. And so, what we're seeing is that governments fall anywhere on the spectrum. Places like Venezuela and Argentina, they don't really like it. But governments like the Isle of Man and Switzerland, they love it. And then we have everything in between. So, it really depends on what the modus operandi of that government is. And if a government feels so threatened and they feel so weak that they have to ban Bitcoin, well, maybe you should take that as a warning sign that your government is not as strong as it kind of purports to be. Because
it's kind of a litmus test, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a litmus test that, like, hey, maybe this regime is a little long in the tooth. It might go away. They feel threatened by math. Any institution that feels threatened by math and feels that they need to make math illegal, like, I thought we got rid of that about 500 years ago with Copernicus and heliocentric theory. I mean, anybody can look through the telescope now, the telescope of Bitcoin, and verify that they actually hold their Bitcoins. Like, anybody can run a full node. So, if a government feels threatened by this, and they would, the way that they manifest that they feel threatened is, with how restrictive is the regulation and how draconian and, how aggressive are they towards people using Bitcoin. If they feel threatened by it, then maybe you want to short that government. You don't want to own their bonds. You don't want to own their currency. You want to limit to the greatest degree possible your exposure to that government, meaning you don't want to hold real estate or stocks or bonds in that government's jurisdiction. Why? Because they feel threatened by math. And if they feel threatened by math, then they might just steal your stuff. Like the Venezuelans are stealing your stuff. And so, I think Bitcoin is a very good litmus test for, just how scared the government is that they're losing power or control. And whenever governments, feel threatened that they're losing power or control, that's when they usually go crazy. And that's when you really need to be aware of them. And you really don't want to hold assets in their jurisdiction. You want to sell and short that government and the assets in that jurisdiction, and then let it kind of sort itself out and collapse, because there's no way to avoid the final crack up boom, as Mises says. And so, if a government doesn't like Bitcoin and wants to make it illegal, let's have a war on math, right? Like, that's going to work out real well. And so, just kind of realize that and set yourself up so that you can use, with $100 satellite dish, you can run a full node anywhere in the world, because Blockstream has put out these satellites, custom infrastructure for the Bitcoin protocol. You don't even have to go over the regular internet protocol lines like fiber optics or whatever. You can get a satellite dish out, point it up to the satellite, and you can run a full node. And then you can transmit a blockchain transaction with an SMS text message. So
that's fabulous. We're going to do that, Gary.
Yeah, in terms of the censorship resistance, like, it's $100 anywhere in the world. You can run Bitcoin, like, with a full node. You don't have to rely on an ISP anymore. And the ISP that might be spying on you doesn't know that you're using Bitcoin anymore. So you're totally routing around the Great Firewall of China or whatever else. So, if governments decide that they want to declare a war on math, I would take that as a major vote of no confidence that government has made in themselves.
No kidding. Wow.
So, another question I have is, I've heard you talk about, is triple entry bookkeeping. I am not an accountant. I don't even know what that means. I hardly know what double entry bookkeeping is. and now you're talking about Bitcoin's the first to use triple entry. I mean, you left me. I was gone already with the double, which I didn't understand. Could you just give us a real recap on that? Going over?
Well, you and everyone else, right? Like, who likes the accountants? The accountants like each other, but that's about it. So my background's actually in accounting. And one of the things that I love about Bitcoin is this aspect of triple entry bookkeeping. And as you said, the first practical implementation of it. So in the 1300s, we got double entry bookkeeping. That's where we had a debit and a credit. And these were the Medici, the traders or the merchants of Venice, literally, right? And you have a debit and a credit, and that means that instead of, before, if you had one sheep and then the sheep had babies and it had 4 sheep, and so now you had 5 sheep. And then, and so that was your ledger. You had 5 sheep, and then you ate a sheep, and so now you had 4 sheep. But you only had one entry there. With double entry bookkeeping, you now had debits and credits, which gave you which you could track through the general ledger and the income statement. and balance sheet in order to figure out exactly where the 2 sheep went, or the 3 sheep, or the addition of 4 sheep. And so you could now much more accurately prove the state of your accounting books and how they got there. So you had this continuity through time. Now, one of the problems with that is, okay, we got a ledger, but we also got an eraser. And so, people would get into the ledger with their eraser. They would start shredding documents like Enron did. And you usually, when somebody wants to commit a fraud, they will go and they'll try to alter the ledger, to hide their fraud. And so we came up with auditing and like all these standards and accounting standards and all this stuff to try and bring integrity to the ledger. Well, with Bitcoin, we do all of that with the triple entry, with the confirmation. And so you do a debit and a credit. You do transaction inputs, transaction outputs. That becomes a transaction. You put the transaction into a block. The block goes into the blockchain. And now you've got a confirmation when it gets into the blockchain, and it becomes part of this immutable record, this immutable blockchain that has a record of every single debit and credit for all the transaction inputs and outputs throughout the entire history of Bitcoin. And anybody can download that blockchain and they can fully validate it. That's what you do with a full node. You validate the blockchain and you make sure that that blockchain has followed the rules of the protocol. And so you can cryptographically prove, without relying on anybody else, that the Bitcoin that somebody says they sent you actually did get sent to you. Right? And that's kind of the name of the game. Did I really get this or did I not? When you log on to Wells Fargo and you see digits in your bank account, like, why do you trust that? Why do you trust those digits? You might not even be on Wells Fargo's bank account. Might have been part of a phishing attack, right? Or something else. So, like, why do you trust those digits? And even if you do trust those digits, Wells Fargo, they got an eraser. They can just instantly change your $100,000 into $10,000 by erasing the zero. And what recourse do you have? You got to take them to court. But with Bitcoin, you don't have to rely on anybody. You have those digits in the blockchain. You have those transaction inputs and outputs.
I'll tell you, Trace, it sounds like a change of paradigm. Everyone is used to putting their money in an institution, and we trust the institution, and we feel like all our money is safe. And when you have retirement accounts, hundreds of thousands, people don't put it under the mattress generally. Now people have to take responsibility, be their own agent of keeping their money safe and putting it in a hardware wallet or putting it in using a Glacier protocol, just safeguarding their money. And I'll tell you, I've been in this a long time. It's still a little frightening to have all that responsibility.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's a little daunting. Take incremental tasks. Think of it like war. General Patton, he said, I never like to pay for the same real estate twice. Make incremental, take territory incrementally, slowly, safely, securely. And once you take territory, never give it up. So as you take monetary sovereignty territory, do it incrementally, learn, get practical experience, do all of those things. Don't try and run and don't try to end World War II all at once. You got lots of little battles in this giant war to take your monetary sovereignty. Just, take it in a very safe, secure, conservative way. And before you know it, you're going to have lots of territory. What do I mean by that? You're going to have the technical competence to secure your own private keys, and you're going to have more and more wealth, because as more people take this monetary sovereignty on the Bitcoin blockchain, that price ratio between Bitcoin and all the other assets is going to continue to favor the holders of Bitcoin. So, I hate to break it to you, but everybody's retirement accounts, they're not safe. We had over 20 nations that nationalized retirement accounts in the financial crisis. Guess what? Your money in retirement accounts, your money in Schwab or E-Trade or Interactive Brokers, they don't even know if you actually own the shares in there. You might have failure to delivers, FTDs. And then we've got naked short selling. And my friend Caitlin Long, she was a former managing director at Morgan Stanley. She's helped Delaware with their blockchain initiative because a couple of the judges on the bankruptcy courts there are really upset because we have transfer agents and we have other people involved in the plumbing of the financial industry that don't even know who owns what. I mean, like one of the recent cases, something like $396 million with a Dole Foods merger or acquisition or something, and they didn't know who owned what shares in this case. And the judge is like, this could be solved with blockchain technology. So, I mean, it's really crazy. People think that they own stuff. They think that they have assets in their retirement accounts and their bank accounts. But at the end of the day, nobody knows who owns what. And why? Because everybody's got an eraser. Everybody's like, all these third-party institutions have erasers, and they're going around erasing what people own, or the records aren't even kept accurately in the first place. This is one of the reasons in 2005, in one of the letters to shareholders that Warren Buffett wrote to all the shareholders of Berkshire Hathaway, and I've read every single letter to shareholder that he's written, he actually told everybody, get physical possession of your Berkshire Hathaway shares. And here's the contact information of the transfer agent. I would say the vast majority of people on the other side of this podcast who think that they have shares in their retirement account or whatever, they don't even know what a transfer agent is, let alone like why they would need to contact one and get their shares and hold them directly, right? It's so that you actually own it. I mean, it's really scary when you think about it.
The level of ignorance that we have about our own money is vast because we are not brought up in a society that teaches us to take responsibility about money.
Well, and there's a lot of money to be made holding the private keys of other people's money, holding the stocks, holding the bonds, holding the real estate, everybody's got their grubby little fingers out and wants to hold your assets. Why do they want to hold your assets? Because they can lend them out, they can hypothecate them, they can sell them short, they can lend them at interest. Like they can make money holding your assets, but guess what? They have to take risk when they do that, and they get the benefit, but they socialize the costs, right? So they privatize the gains and socialize the losses, and this is very dangerous, And so a lot of people they think they own assets and all this stuff. I mean, it's kind of like which lifeboat do you want to be in? You want to be in the first one, right?
Not the last one.
You don't want to be in the middle one either, because then you got other people like swimming trying to get into your lifeboat, and then there might be some hard choices there. You want to be in the first lifeboat, and you want to be really far away from everybody. And it's unfortunate, but he who panics first panics best. And so, taking some portion of your assets and moving into something that's completely safe and liquid, that can't be seized, where you hold the private keys yourself, where you're doing your full node validation, where you know exactly what you own because you validated it with the wallet software. This is a huge paradigm shift. We're shifting from centralized entities to decentralized trust. No longer having servers, but having distributed networks. This is such a paradigm shift for everybody. Like, I don't blame everybody for having a hard time making it. But at the same time, guess what? Nobody cares about your health or your wealth more than you do. And just like we've seen with the medical establishment, there are a lot of perverse incentives. Pharmaceutical companies, they make a lot more money by selling you a pill that actually creates side effects, so you need more pills. They have a financial incentive to make you sick.
To keep you alive, but to keep you sick.
Yeah, to keep you alive, but to keep you sick.
Keep you on their product.
Yeah, to keep you on their product. The financial industry has the exact same type of incentives, okay? And people just need to understand that. Like, hey, you got to take control of your own financial situation, because there's nobody else out there that you should trust with that. I mean, don't trust me. I'm just saying, hey, claim your monetary sovereignty. I'm not selling you anything. I'm not trying to take any fees. I'm just saying, hey, look, here's a lifeboat. You might want a lifeboat as part of your portfolio. But hey, if you don't want a lifeboat, that's fine. That's fine. I want the lifeboat, but if you don't want the lifeboat, if you don't want the parachute, that's fine. Splat. and that's what's going to happen to a lot of people's financial performance. And that's what we're already seeing happen. That people have gotten into the lifeboat. Well, their little dinghies turned into a gigantic aircraft carrier now because the lifeboat's gone up in value tens of thousands of %. And guess what? There's something like $2 quadrillion. That's $2,000 trillion worth of assets all throughout the world with derivatives and all this stuff. And Bitcoin and gold, these are the lifeboats for people. These are sovereign assets.
Well, I hope we're on one of the first lifeboats still.
Yeah, well, I mean, gold was definitely part of this, which is why gold has gone from about $250 an ounce in early 1999 to, $1,300 an ounce now. But gold is a $9 trillion market cap lifeboat. If Bitcoin were to have just gold's market cap, we're looking at $40,000, $50,000 a Bitcoin. So, I mean, it's just crazy, how desperately the world wants lifeboats. They want to own stuff the central banks can't print. I mean, the European Central Bank alone is printing something like $80 billion a month. And the Japanese Central Bank, it's official policy, this competitive devaluation, because not just at the JCB, but everywhere, because everybody wants their currencies to be devalued in order to make their exports more attractive. But when you devalue the currencies, you also devalue all the other assets that are denominated in those currencies, whether they're bonds or real estate or stocks or whatever. And so, this is a really crazy thing that's going on throughout the entire world. And it's all they're marshaling all the assets with the Plunge Protection Team, the President's Working Group on Financial Markets, in order to keep the final crack up boom from happening. That's why we had trillions of dollars of bailouts. Well, guess what? They took that money from people's retirement accounts basically through inflation. And it's very surreptitious, but at the same time, it's so egregious. But now people have a tool to fight back with. They have physical gold and they have Bitcoins. That's how you fight this battle of monetary sovereignty. That's how because we now have property rights that are denominated in software code, not in legal code. So hey, if you don't want to avail yourself of the tools that are available, man, you just make yourself easy pickings. If you don't want to develop any armor and shields, I mean, you're going up against people that, have armor and shields and cannons and gunpowder. You should want to have the best technology that you could get to defend yourself and your monetary sovereignty.
And one of the things I'm sorry, I just have one question. We have a lot of newbies that listen to this show, Trace. I mean, a lot of people that are just getting into it because we're kind of going through the whole process and steps. And could you just explain real simply, you said it quite a few times, but for our listeners, what is a full node? What does that mean?
So a full node is where you have software that goes out and gets the blockchain and then does full validation of that blockchain. So it cryptographically proves every single transaction that's happened. That way, when someone sends you Bitcoin, you can validate that Bitcoin is actually a Bitcoin or not. And what I mean by that is the internet protocol that we call Bitcoin, that internet protocol has rules. And those rules have to be strictly followed or it's not a Bitcoin. And so this software is what enforces those rules on all of this data on this blockchain that you get. It takes that blockchain, it runs it through the rules and says, okay, this is valid or not. And it either, it's like a math problem. 2 + 2, it equals 4. And if you say that it equals 5, I can run that through my math algorithm, my math software. And as long as I'm trusting my software, if I put your function in there that 2 + 2 = 5, mine's going to say false. And so your full node is what says true or false. And if it says true, then hey, you actually got the Bitcoin. If it says false, then somebody's trying to pull shenanigans on you. And so that's why you want to run a full node, And Bitcoin Core is there's 125,000 full nodes that are out there at any given time over a 30-day period, and something like 124,000 of them run Bitcoin Core. So, you want to, if you're going to run a full node, run Bitcoin Core, because that's what everybody else is running too, and you want to stay in consensus with everybody else.
So that's going to be a little project for Gary and I. We'll
it's fun, but hey, if you're gonna like monetary sovereignty, you wanna have it or not? Like the software is free, and most people have internet connections that have sufficient bandwidth and they have sufficient storage and processing power in their computers. So it's not like you have to go buy a special $20,000 computer to do this. I mean, you can run a full node on a $35 Raspberry Pi, and like pretty much every laptop will run one. So, there's really no excuse for people not to run full nodes, and yet it gives you so much benefit in claiming your monetary sovereignty.
Oh, thanks for explaining that simply. That was, that was, because I know a lot of people have been listening to this going, what is he talking about?
Yeah, and it's also kind of like, we can talk about riding a bicycle all day long, but sometimes you just got to get on the bicycle, and hey, you might skin your knee here or there, but you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out, and then it'll be like, oh yeah, riding a bicycle, that's easy.
Well, this has been a great interview. I appreciate you joining us again for another episode of the Crypto Cousins. I know, Tony, I'm sure you feel the same way. This has been real enlightening.
This has been fantastic. Thank you, Trace.
Yeah, glad to help you guys out and all the people you reach. I mean, the more shows like this that we have, the better, and eventually the best ideas, they'll bubble up to the top. And so it's good. The more we talk about all these things, like running a full node, holding your own private keys, the more important I think it is, because there are a lot of people out there that they want to hold your private keys, and they want to hold them to abuse them. They want to abuse that trust that you put in them financially. And so I would be extremely skeptical of anybody that discourages or otherwise wants to make more expensive running a full node or holding your private keys. Anybody who wants to attack those, like, I would be highly skeptical of any of those people, because basically they want to steal your money.
They don't have your best interests at heart.
Probably not. Probably not, because anytime people have attacked monetary sovereignty, they want to steal your money. That's why they want to attack it.
Hey, Trace, where's the best place for people to find you or follow you?
Yeah, so I've got Twitter, so @TraceMayer, and then my Bitcoin Knowledge podcast, www.bitcoin.kn, is where people can hear me interview CEOs in the space or other people working on cool projects. Cool.
Well, Trace, thank you again from the bottom of my heart for coming on the show, and hopefully we'll have you on again someday if you have time, because I know Tony agrees with me. We definitely will find time on our end, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I definitely love to be back with you guys. We've had a couple great interviews already, so keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Trace. Wow, that was great talking to Cousin Trace again.
It was great.
You know what I think we should do? We should, I bet he'll do this, message him from time to time when something big is happening in the crypto world and say, hey, send us your thoughts, 5-minute thoughts on this subject. And
I think he would do that.
I think he would too, because he has a podcast, so he's used to recording. And he's a really nice guy. So that's something we may want to work on. I also want to let everybody know about our Patreon page. We've had quite a few people join that, cryptocousins.com/Patreon. And so make sure you check that out. And remember our phone number, 747-777-9471. Tony, anything you want to leave them with? Because I think we went overboard. We weren't going to talk much to begin with, but we did. So
we always do.
And they don't even know how much we got rid of that we talked before we did the show.
Right. What's on the cutting room floor. Exactly. No, that's it. It's a wrap. We'll see you guys next week.
And hopefully next week we'll have either Charlie Shrem or John McAfee on the show, but their projects is how it's turning out. But not to Charlie Shrem. He just messaged us back yesterday. So I'm not going to say anything about that. He's pretty much on the ball. Hey, thanks everyone for listening, and until next week, take it easy and may crypto be with you.
Take care.
The Crypto Cousins podcast and information in the podcast are not intended as investment advice. Cryptocurrencies are risky. Never invest more than you can afford to lose. Always seek professional advice before making any investment. Investing in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies may present tremendous risks. Please understand that you are using any and all information available on or through the Crypto Cousins podcast at your own risk.